Hey guys, it's Sophie from GAINSBYBRAINS and welcome to this week's Training Tip Tuesday. And this week's Training Tip Tuesday is all about food. If you don't know it already, after my epic cheat day, I decided to switch to a completely plant-based diet, mainly to see how my body would react to it and how it would make me feel. I am really enjoying it so far, but it also made me realize that it can be quite difficult to come up with meal ideas that are vegan, that are high in protein, easy to make, and budget friendly. So that is why I decided that this week's Training Tip Tuesday is all about vegan meal ideas. Dish number one is called a bootable, and the reason why it is called a bootable is because you can fill it up with a lot of ingredients, with a lot of vegetables, so that it will create that overflowing effect that looks like the belly of a Buddha. I did not make up the name, but that's the reason why it is called a bootable. The main ingredients are chickpeas and sweet potatoes, and I really like working with sweet potato as it can both help with preventing and fighting inflammation in your body. The ones that I'm using are frozen because I always keep a batch in my freezer, just if I'm ever running out of food, then at least I have some sweet potato. But you can obviously also use fresh ones, and in that case I would recommend you to first boil them for a little while because that speeds up the cooking process. I mentioned before that I really like working with potatoes in general because they aren't very caloric dense, meaning that you can have a whole lot of volume without too many calories, which is definitely something that works very well if you're trying to fill up a Buddha bowl. I use nutritional yeast and some pepper mix to season the chickpeas. Now I know that nutritional yeast can sound a bit unappetizing, or at least in my opinion, but there are some benefits to using it, especially whenever you are on a plant-based diet. The first reason why I really like adding nutritional yeast to my dishes is because it is a complete protein. Now, as I mentioned before in my supplements video, there are 9 essential amino acids that you need to make sure that you take in on a daily basis that your body cannot produce on its own. Most animal-based protein sources contain all 9 of those essential amino acids, but most plant-based protein sources are low on at least one of them. So supplementing your diet with something like nutritional yeast will make sure that you get all essential amino acids in on a daily basis. The second reason why I really like adding nutritional yeast to my dishes is because it's very high in vitamin B. And again, if you're on a plant-based diet, then there is a chance that you are running low on vitamin B. So supplementing your diet with vitamin B or with nutritional yeast that contains a lot of vitamin B can really help. Nutritional yeast has a bit of a cheesy flavor, which is why I really like adding it to chickpeas, for example. If you haven't worked with nutritional yeast before, then make sure that you add a tiny bit just to see how your body responds to it, and then you can increase how much you're using of it later on. Then I also add in some tofu to the Buddha bowl, and I am seasoning it with soy sauce with a bit of maple syrup, and I also really like adding in some turmeric or curcumin and some ginger, and both the turmeric and the ginger are anti-inflammatory ingredients, so that's really beneficial for your body if you add them to your meals. Then moving on to the dressing, and for the dressing I'm using tahini, some fresh lemon, some hot water for the desired consistency, and I'm also adding in some maple syrup. And I really think that this is what transforms the separate ingredients into one whole dish. It's really the dressing. I like working with tahini. It is a paste made of sesame seeds, so it's like peanut butter but less sweet and more earthy flavor. I think that's how I would describe it, and I just think that it works really well with the ingredients that I added. If you don't feel like making it, or if you don't have tahini, then you can also use hummus, for example. I've used that before and I really like it. And then I would recommend you to add some hot water to the hummus to get a bit of a less thick consistency, so you can sprinkle it over your Buddha bowl. And then I'm just adding some vegetables that I either have in my fridge or that are on sale, for example. So that's why I really like this dish, because I am using the chickpeas and the tofu as a protein source. Then I have the sweet potato as a really good carb source. Then I make some kind of dressing, and then I just throw in whatever other vegetables I have left in my fridge, for example.
Just
be aware that the turmeric stains really bad, especially on your skin and on your nails and on your clothes and on your everything. It just stains really bad, just so you know. Then we move on to dish number 2, which is a chickpea pasta made with lentils. I really like the chickpea pasta and it only takes 3 or 4 minutes to boil. And then for the sauce I am using garlic, I'm using some carrots, tomatoes and lentils. I really like adding some green vegetables into my dishes, so that is why I decided to add in the broccoli as well. And while all the ingredients were in the pan, the broccoli was steaming, and then after the broccoli was done, I threw it in the pan as well. Then I added in some plain tomato sauce with no added sugars, so really pay attention to the nutritional label that it only contains tomato, because it really isn't necessary to have any added sugars into the mix. You can also add in some tomato paste, just to have a bit of a thicker consistency. And then again, I added in some nutritional yeast and some other herbs. Throw the pasta in there as well, give it a good stir, and you are done. And then we're moving on to dish number 3, which is a wrap. I am using garlic, pepper, red onion, some tofu, some kidney beans, tomato and some corn, and I usually make 2 whole wheat wraps. I always go for the whole wheat products just because they are nutritionally stronger, so they contain more nutrients. So even if the whole wheat option is more caloric dense, then I would still recommend you to go for the whole wheat option, just because it isn't all about macros or about calories. It is also about micros. Just throw everything in a pan, heat it up until the tofu is golden brown. Then I added in some basic tomato sauce. I also added in some herbs. And in the meantime, I decided to heat up my wraps in a pan as well. You can also put it in the microwave or in the oven, whatever is your preferred method. Then just fill them up and you are done. Meal number 4 is the smoothie bowl. So as a base, I am using some frozen fruits. I like blueberries because they're high in antioxidants. I also like putting banana in there because it's high in potassium, which helps with maintaining your fluid balances. Then I have some ice to give it that thicker consistency, and as a base I am using coconut water, coconut milk, which is full of electrolytes. And electrolytes are really good at preventing dehydration. Then I added in 30 grams of vegan protein powder. This one is from Women's Best, and I also added in the red superfruits. I really like it just because of the taste, and I also really like the ingredients that are in it, but you don't have to use the red superfruits, but I do recommend you to add some form of protein powder in there just to maintain a really good balance of macros. Just blend it up and then add some toppings of your choice and you are done. Oh, and life hack. If you are going to blend something that contains both liquidy things and powdery things, then always make sure that your powdery things are closest to the blades, just because that really helps with getting everything mixed together very well. So what I always do is I put in the liquid first and then I add in some powder, just because my blades are going on top of the container, and then I turn it around to blend it. But if you have a blender where you throw everything in from the top, then just make sure that you add the powder in first and the liquidy things later, just because it really helps with blending. Those were my 4 vegan meal ideas. I really hope that you enjoyed watching it, and I also really hope that it helps you out, especially when you are on a plant-based diet and you're struggling with meal ideas, or if you just really like having some plant-based meals every now and then. And again, you can also just use it as a base and throw in your own ingredients or make your own variation of the meals. Let me know in the comments down below if you're going to try some of these meals out. Don't forget to like this video and to subscribe to my channel if you don't want to miss any of my future videos ever again. And then I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.